Hi, Dee. Great to have you here today on the Yes You Can podcast. As I had mentioned to you during our conversation, this podcast is really all about stepping into the highest version of ourselves. So, oftentimes, I am honored to have guests on who can describe their personal transformation stories. And as I shared with you, the premise of the podcast is what we tell ourselves we believe, what we believe we become. Yes, you can. And so, really great to have you here today to talk a little bit about your personal journey, your transformation, and of course, the latest that is on the horizon for you professionally as well. We'll save that goodness for a little further in the conversation. So, thanks for joining me. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and would love to just start off by understanding a little bit about your history. We'll build on that, kind of going from your personal history, your story of transformation, and how that led to what you're doing professionally as well.
Oh, Dana, thank you so much for having me here. And yes, you can. It's such a pleasure and an honor to come and share with you today. Thank you.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you here. So I know you had mentioned, through some of our initial conversation that um, you had an experience where I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, you were wheelchair bound.
Mhm.
For how long were you wheelchair bound? Was it a long time?
It was a long time. It was, goodness, it was over almost a period of 10 years.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it was pretty devastating at the time. There was so much going on with my body. I had a thing called functional neurological disorder, and how it manifested in me was a bit like Parkinson's disease and
Mm.
MS as well. So it was really quite bad. And every time I went to a neurologist, they're like, "We think you've got multiple sclerosis," and I was like, "Okay," but we did some scans and lots of tests over the years, and they were like, "No, no, it's okay, it's not MS, it's not Parkinson's." For all that I had all the symptoms of them both, and my body just looked like it was. Anyone would look at me and they'd be like, "Yeah, you've got MS or you've got Parkinson's," and I'm like, "I don't. I have a thing that is called functional, but it's unfunctional. Your body doesn't function correctly at all. All the wires in the brain go haywire. They're
Mm.
all over. So it's not the best."
So it sounds like was it also painful?
Extremely painful. I was on over 60 different tablets a day. It just went from taking a couple of tablets and then I would have other symptoms. So then I would get tablets for that. And it just built up over a few years to being on over 60 tablets a day.
Wow, that's a lot. For over 10 years, you were on that many medications. And so tell me a little bit about the symptoms. You mentioned that there was a thought that it was potentially MS.
Yeah.
That's why I asked about the pain and obviously it's neurological. But what were some of the ways in which this was showing up for you physically?
Well,
And with
the
us too.
main yeah the main factor was my back gave in on me, so I couldn't walk. Hence, I was in the wheelchair. I then physically couldn't move my legs. The Everything had went from it. I had no feeling from the knees down. There was they were like dead weights all the time, and the Parkinson side of it as well. I was having a lot of fits. My body would just start shaking, um, and the pain was, it's nothing that I could explain to someone who hasn't went through severe pain continuously for many, many years. So it was quite horrific.
And did that also then, I mean, obviously pain in itself, but neurologically speaking, did that affect your mental processing?
Oh, yes. My mental capacity was at zero quite often. I sometimes I couldn't even string two words together. There was I would be asked questions and I would answer in a mumbled noise. I was thinking I was speaking because in my head I was speaking clearly, but it was very, very mumbled and nobody could understand it. Other times, the brain fog was horrific. I
Wow.
would ask a question 7, 8 times plus, and I wouldn't have any recollection of asking it, even though I would ask it consistently, one after the other, because it's in my head to ask a question. I've not been answered, I ask it again, and I have no recollection of it.
Interesting. So it was affecting not only your like verbal capability and communication, as well as the clarity. You mentioned the brain fog, but also even the memory recall too, which was you're talking, short-term memory as well, right?
Absolutely, there was none at some points, and I just wouldn't understand why I had to ask again. And
Mm,
there was no recollection at all of having an answer given to me, and I would be thinking, I'm sure I've asked it, but I don't know if I've asked it, so I would just ask again. And
mm,
that could be quite infuriating for people round about me because I
sure.
continually just ask.
So, do you know what led to this prior to, because you went through this for about 10 years? Do you know what started it?
I don't, I've not had the specifics as to why it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, FND can be triggered with either having an operation, having a real illness before, or having severe trauma. And for me, I didn't have any of them. I was in a car accident. I was knocked down as a pedestrian when I was 13, but I didn't see that as being traumatic. But my body probably did. I had my daughter at 21, and it first came on at me when I was 22.
Oh,
They
wow.
couldn't diagnose what it was because they weren't sophisticated enough in their testing, and functional neurological disorder was not a thing back then. And then when I had it just going into my 40s, I was then, well, in my 30s, I had it. So they could then diagnose me then because they were a bit more advanced in the brain side of things. So, and it's one of the places where the brain is so complex that
Yes,
there's so much for them to learn. The neurologists can't just pinpoint things sometimes because um, FND is a bit like MS, uh, and it's a bit like ME,
mm-hmm.
and it's a bit like fibromyalgia.
Exactly. I was
So
thinking
it just
the same.
depends on your neurologist as to which way you're diagnosed a lot of the time. Obviously, MS is a lot more that there's lesions in the brain. I did have some of them, but they were small. So therefore, I wasn't diagnosed with MS.
And how was that treated for lesions in the brain? Was that just through the medications, or did you have to have any surgeries or anything?
No surgery. They just they looked, they saw some lesions. They were small lesions, so there was nothing much more done. But I also had slipped discs in my back. I also had arthritis in my lower back. I had arthritis along my shoulders and down my cervical spine as well. And
Mm,
so there was a lot of things going on. I had a lot of heart issues with it because of the amount of medication and the non-moving.
sure.
There was so much going on in my body that it was quite unbelievable. And it came to a stage where I was given 5 years to live because I was severely overweight. I was having a lot of difficulties with my heart, and it was just getting worse and worse. And I was on the medications were rising that it came to a stage of having too many, and it just wasn't very good for my body or my brain.
Definitely.
So
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, that's not a, unfortunately, that's the big dilemma that we have with some of the traditional healthcare is that continuing to add medications to the list is not a real effective long-term strategy, and especially when you start to consider the side effects or, what can happen if they're, mixed and, how, like some of that they might not even have all the answers to either just
they
yet.
don't, they don't.
Right. Um, so one, so what ultimately started to change for you? How did you go from 10 years in a wheelchair, basically immobile? more or less, and dealing with the physical pain and the psychological difficulty of being able to, really function and process to 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 suddenly, I know you told me that you were able to walk and out of the wheelchair. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, what happened? What was the light bulb that went on?
Well, the light bulb basically was being given that death sentence that you had 5 years left. That gave me back my life. And I did have a couple of days. I had 5 days where I felt really sorry for myself. Why me? Why is this happening? I'm not done. What's going on? So I had all of that going on. I did it very quietly. I waited until the house was empty, and I would be shouting and swearing
Mm,
at everyone and just not in a very good place at all. And I didn't get out of my bed for those days at all. Because sometimes if I was fit enough, I could get up and get to the living room and sit on the couch with the family, but I just was not getting out of bed those days, and it, I wouldn't open. I didn't get the curtains opened. I kept the light out. Just wasn't happy to be speaking to anyone.
sure. I mean, that's grief, right? And the
Yeah,
early stages of grief that you're describing, and it shows up differently in different ways. But um, certainly, I mean, that's nothing short of being jarring to somebody to be told you have, less than 5 years to live. And especially when in the situation that you describe, it seems like you already felt like you really have been running out of options,
mhm. Yeah.
right?
The options were there was very little because my days out were going to hospital visits or doctor's visits or physio appointments or whatever medical appointment it was that I needed to get to, that was my life, So, and it took an awful lot of energy for me to go out on those occasions where I would end up in my bed for days on end because I'd be exhausted just having to be dressed and showered and be taken out the house. It was an awful lot to deal with. So,
Yeah.
but after I had my 5 days of feeling sorry for myself, as I quite rightly should have done,
I
um,
agree.
I I was sitting in the wheelchair and I was just looking out into the garden, and I was like, I'm not doing this. This is not happening. I've not, and in my head, I was like, I always like to dance and move and do things. So I was like, I've not danced my last dance.
I love
And
that.
that came into my head, and it's something that I keep to today. And I'm like, I've not danced my last dance. And I didn't have a clue that I would ever get out the wheelchair. I thought, whether I dance in this wheelchair or not, I don't care. I'm going to do it no matter what.
Yes. I have to just acknowledge that I literally have full body chills hearing you say that. That's such a beautiful moment to have, a beautiful sentiment, and not just metaphorically, but truly, like the actual, like both the metaphor behind dancing your last dance and also the actual physical capability to do it. Have you returned to dancing now that you're more mobile?
I have danced once or twice since, yes.
So
I think
you, so it wasn't your last, and it's yeah.
it, definitely not. Definitely not. Oh goodness, Dana, you will find me if there's a good tune in the supermarket. You will find me dancing down the aisles.
Good for you. This is how we're meant to live. It
Yeah,
really is.
I do get some funny looks, but I'm beyond caring about that. I can dance. I can stand. I can walk, I can get to the gym, I can do all the things I want to do. So therefore, I don't have the normal restrictions that, oh my goodness, someone's going to watch me, someone's going to see me.
Right.
It doesn't
When
enter
you
my head.
when you've quite literally pretty much faced death, it changes the perspective of what really matters, right?
It,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I can relate, not in quite the same exact experience, but in my own. So I understand how it shifts our perspective of, where we really just don't place as much importance on those things of like what other people think or what it means to like to really be joyful and live our lives, right? That's what we're here to do. That's part of what we're here for as well. So tell me more about this if you will, like in my words, it's an awakening. I don't know if you resonate with that term, but like this awakening from this, news and the 5 days that you gave yourself to allow yourself to have those feelings. What was the reset moment? So you had this wake up that, okay, this is not going to be my life, but tell me more.
So it started with I was in a bad way. My
Mm-hmm.
body wasn't moving. I didn't have control over my legs. They were a dead weight. I could move from my bedroom to the bathroom with a Zimmer frame, but I had to individually lift my trouser leg to lift a leg up to move it forward. And that movement, it was very, very slow. I mean, it wasn't like a full step, it was the tiniest little step. And it took all of my energy to do that. So I normally wouldn't drink too much, so I wouldn't have too many trips to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided after I had my moments that I was going to move, regardless of how painful it was and how often. So my way to do that was to drink just fluids normally and not restrict myself. And doing that, I then had to move and go to the toilet. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my first steps. And they were tiny, toty steps, but it was just to build that momentum and to start building the trust again within myself that that was the only thing I knew what I could do. I knew I had to move more. I was also meant to get put onto insulin because my blood sugar levels were horrific. And I think normally they're like greater than 41 and you get put on the basic medication. My levels had rose up to 141.
Wow.
So I was severely needing insulin for my body. And something within me had decided to know that if I go into insulin, that's me for the rest of my life because I understood that if my body needed insulin, there was no way to come back off that because your body then becomes reliant on the added insulin for it to function. And I thought, I'm not doing that. So that was the other thing. And I thought, I have to sort my diet. I was very, very overweight. I wasn't moving. I was on too much medication. I wasn't eating a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought I have to eat healthier. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way I knew to do that was to eat salads.
Sure.
So that's what I did in the beginning. And that little bit of movement and the little changes to my diet and making sure that I did actually eat a lunch and a dinner was
Mm-hmm.
important as well. And I would just have loads of salad, eat what I could, and that was me. So with the moving and then the eating, I then, when I was getting a little bit more mobile, I thought I need to reduce my tablets. Now, rightly or wrongly, I didn't seek help for that. I thought I'll reduce it by a little bit at a time. And I thought I'll take half a tablet away at a time. And it was too much. I failed. And then I thought, right, I'll cut it down a little bit more. So I tried if I could break the tablets enough, I could then take a quarter out of
Mm-hmm.
one tablet. And then I would do that with another tablet. And then it would just build. So within a year, I had halved my tablets. I was then on just about 30 odds a day, which was amazing. And I was feeling so much better because I had a bit more movement. I was drinking well, I was eating well, and I'd went vegan by this time. There was no meat in my diet at all, no dairy in my diet. And I was like, right, okay, I'm feeling so much better. The brain fog was beginning to lift.
Mm-hmm.
And I started a place called Chakra School. It was online.
Mm-hmm.
And I had done some other things, but through Mind Valley, doing a bit of mindfulness and learning about the mind and how it worked, and a bit of energy healing, and a bit here and a bit there. And it was great. I loved it. And I thought, and I found chakra school, and I'd heard of chakras, and I was like, okay, let me try this. And then it was like, oh, you have to meditate, you have to sit up straight, you have to do this. And I'm going, I can't. Can I
Right.
still participate? And that was my question because I couldn't sit up, I thought, and I didn't know that much about it. And I thought, can I do this? And I was like, yeah, just be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, right, okay, I can be comfortable as much as my body will allow me. And in amongst that year, by cutting down my painkillers and being doing a little bit more movement and watching some things on the internet, I was getting a lot more in my own head. The brain fog had lifted, and I had been doing a lot of healing of looking at my childhood because I didn't even know what I liked at this point because I'd only concentrated on survival with
Sure.
being so ill. So I had to find who I was and what I liked. And,
Mm-hmm.
and not understanding what that was a wee bit devastating, to say the least. So I started looking at my childhood. I started looking at the things that I used to enjoy. And I thought, right, okay. And I'd lost my dreams as well when I was ill because I was surviving. And I thought,
Right.
what do I want to do in life? Thinking I'm going to be in a wheelchair, not knowing. And I'm like, right, okay, if I could learn some things. Now, I'd been to university, I'd done lots of learning in my life and enjoyed learning. And I thought, okay, that's fine. Joined chakra school, was learning about my chakras now. And within about 3 weeks of doing, which was the third eye course, I had a massive awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And I woke the next day. I didn't know this was an awakening at the time because we don't really understand it when we're going through it.
No, exactly.
Di- I didn't have a clue. I'd only started learning about chakras and your energy field and everything else. And but because I'd done so much work on myself and internally, and I'd done some inner child work and forgiven myself and started loving myself and doing all the hard stuff that we don't really do normally because we've not got enough time in a day to think about ourselves, never mind go deep. And when I had this awakening, I woke up and I'm doing what I'm doing. And I was like, I thought, oh, I don't think I've taken my tablets. It was lunchtime and I hadn't. And I thought, okay. And I was about to take them and I thought, I'm not sore. And I thought, okay, that's different. And I was like, okay. So if I need them by dinner time, I'll take them.
Mm-hmm.
Dinner time came, didn't take them. I'll need them by bedtime. Nope. Okay, I'll wake through the night and I'll take them if I need to take them, which was a normal occurrence. No, I had a great night's sleep. The next day, I got up and I'm like, I'm still not sore. This is strange. And my head was buzzing and it was so bright. And I was like, and I was really dizzy,
Mm-hmm.
really, really dizzy. And I thought, is it because I'm not taking my tablets? And I'm like, this is strange because I feel it's not dizzy like I felt unwell.
Mm-hmm.
I felt really good for the first time, and I can't remember how many years. I really can't remember. I had no pain whatsoever. My body was stiff because it still wasn't moving greatly.
Mm-hmm.
But I could walk about the house. Now, I had been using the furniture, which I call furniture surfing, so that when you're walking, you're holding something.
Like children when they're learning to walk, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I was furniture surfing and I didn't do it. And I thought, this is strange. But I was really ecstatically happy and I'm going, okay, I'm not questioning it. I if I need my tablets, I'll take them. That's fine. I've never took them again since. Uh,
Amazing.
and I don't take any medication at all now. I just won't have it. And I'm like,
It's
no.
truly incredible. It's truly incredible what the power, like the power of the mind and our willpower can do in our lives. It really is. Yeah, that's amazing. I just want to sit with that for a moment. And I want you to sit with that for a moment.
Mm,
It's just really, you made a conscious choice and then you quite literally started taking steps.
basically, yes.
I mean, yes, obviously there was more to it than just the physical steps, right? When you
Yeah.
talk about diet changes, the lifestyle changes, the
The
reduction
mind
of
frame changes.
medication. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a real big piece that I would love to acknowledge for you as well. So, as I think you're aware, I do a bit within my coaching practice around the energetics and a blend of neuroscience, somatics, and energy healing. And so it's quite fascinating to me as you're sharing the story that you did the chakra course, which of course, is the energetic aspect of it. But I didn't hear you say anything about any type of change or support when it came to your neuro psyche, if you will, right? So tell me a little bit about what that was for you, because that's a really big deal that you decided, like I said, you made a conscious choice and decided to take the steps. But it's a lot too, and I know from my own journey, it's a lot for us to follow through with that as
Mhm.
well. It's not just about the initial choice, but about really following through and solidifying those new routines and those new behaviors and those new choices. So tell me a little bit about what that looked like for you and how did that work out for you without having, any sort of formal training necessarily, or were you working with a coach at all or anyone to support you in that?
No, this, Dana, this is all downloaded. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know if anything would work. I didn't speak to anyone about it. It was just very, very quiet work that I did. And so I obviously my 5 days took me to what do I do?
Mm,
This isn't right. I'm not done. I've not danced my last dance. What can I do? And I was begging into the air for some sort of answers. And then it did come, you need to move more. And then
mm-hmm,
after that, it came, you need to eat more healthy and you need to cut down your medication. And I'm like, right, okay. So that was just, I had to do it. There was no question that I could not do this. This was the only answers that I had. And those answers worked. And there was no way. Now, don't get me wrong, I did not feel like getting out of bed every day. I was in a lot of pain. I
mm-hmm,
even to move my fingers because everything's attached to the lower back. To move my fingers, to move my head, to lift an arm, to do anything was exhausting. And I had to do it. I had no option. The other option was that I would have a major stroke. And in my head, that major stroke could leave me in a much worse position than what I was in. I didn't have a life. I didn't have any mobility at the time. I could barely do things for myself. I was fully cared for. I couldn't get dried in the shower. I couldn't shower myself. I needed help with everything. And in my head, because I had to do it, there was no question. But when I started changing, and things started getting better, I got more determined to keep
Mhm.
going.
Sure. I
And
know you start to see the results and the momentum.
yeah, and when there's no results and things go backwards, I still kept up because in my head, I had two choices: continue doing this, and hopefully things might change. Or if I don't do it, I'm going to be possibly a vegetable lying there with no function. Hence, I say that word because I would just be lying there. But my biggest fear was that I would have brain activity and I
Mm.
couldn't communicate.
Yeah.
That was my biggest fear. And that's what made me get through it. So, I mean, I did picture myself as a carrot lying there. Hence,
Oh.
I say that word. And I'm like, and I was like, okay, I have that choice of I put myself through more pain, which I learned by then that pain is temporary and pain is fluid and it changes from moment to moment. You're not ever in the same pain constant. You might be in constant pain, but the pain levels change up, down, change the feel, do all different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in constant pain, but in constant different pains. And sometimes the levels would be severe and sometimes it would be less severe. So therefore, pushing myself to have that little bit more pain wasn't horrific for me. I was used to it. So it wasn't something that my body wasn't recognizing, and it wasn't something that scared me because I lived it.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, a bit of pain, and that might give me some more movement. It might give me at least to keep the life that I have and
Yes.
maybe a wee bit better.
A little bit of a play on, that saying, no pain, no gain.
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah. And it's interesting. I'll bring up something that just came to mind too that seems to connect for me. I had a wonderful yoga teacher. And part of the instruction was you want to push yourself to the point that you feel like a little more is too much, but if you back off, a little less is not enough. And to find that little bit of edge right in between, because that's really where that is where the transformation happens. I mean, she didn't say the transformation, but that's where the transformation happens.
Well, for me specifically, it really was because that little bit more pain wasn't pleasant at
Mm-hmm.
all. I mean, the pain wasn't pleasant in the first place, but to add a little bit more on and to be exhausted after doing it, I was like, okay, that's fine. And it was only a couple of months that then I started seeing a slight difference because obviously I was eating only salads.
Yes.
And
Right.
therefore,
I'll do it quickly. Right.
yeah, so that's all I was eating. And then I had movement for the first time in many years. Not
Mm-hmm.
that it was any sort of movement for normal everyday people that have full ability in their movements. It certainly wasn't that way at all, but having those steps every day made such a difference. And
Absolutely.
therefore, my body was lessening as well. And coming down off the medication after that then allowed the brain fog to be dispersing. So
Absolutely.
it was awesome.
It's all connected. Yes, the diet, the movement, the mindset. This is a big piece of the work that I do too, like the mind, body, soul or spirit or energy, interchangeably, I suppose, depending how you want to look at it. And yeah, it's a very big deal. And do you thank yourself daily for this?
Yes, I live in constant gratitude. I If I have a slight pain in my body, I'm like, okay, good. My body's working.
Mm,
You know,
I
it's
love it.
not, oh my goodness, what is that? What's happening? It's like, Yeah, my body's telling me it's here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like yesterday when I went to the gym and I was doing a lot of upper body. And no, don't I'm only just back at the gym after 18 months being away due to personal things going on. And I got back, and so my workout is nowhere near what it used to be, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
still working out. And oh, my shoulders hated me yesterday.
Oh,
And,
sure.
and I'm like, oh, it's sore, but it's good.
Yes, actually, you're so correct, right? Especially when it comes to things like that. When we think about the weight training or resistance training or anything of the sort, like physically with our bodies, like we're going to feel that way
Yeah.
as it's working, as it's doing its job for a little while, and then when once it starts to get too easy, that's usually when it's time to
Up the
you know
game.
up the game or switch it again, right? Such as life, I think, in some respects too. But let's at least find some enjoyment in the middle of it too,
Oh,
right?
yes. The good music helps. The good music absolutely helps.
Yes. Um, so when it comes to, yeah, I mean, this is just phenomenal hearing your story, and I think it's just wonderful. You should definitely be proud of yourself, and it seems that you are, right? You definitely appreciate your life and your lifestyle, and how has this beyond physically and mentally? How has this transformed your life?
Oh, Dana, I am the person I always wanted to be. All the stuff that was lying within me all gets to be free now. All the things that I was like, oh, I wish I could do this, or I wanting to do things in life from a very young age, and I'm like, oh, I'm not capable of doing that. That word doesn't enter my head any longer. If I
Mm.
want to do something, I am going to do it, and I will
Yes, you can.
find ways to make it happen.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you
That's
can.
right. That's right. Uh, I love that. I love that so much. So, thinking about, you've maintained a healthier lifestyle after you made those changes. Both with movement, increasing your strength training, things of this nature. Have you added anything else to your life that you weren't doing before that are part of your favorites? I'd love to hear and have you share.
Yes. There's one thing in particular, and this was one of my things from a very young age. Now I was always fit. I was always into fitness. I did a 24-hour marathon when I was younger, and always was at the gym from the age of 14. And the only time I've never been at the gym is when I've been unwell, or like in the last 18 months, I was looking after my mother. So therefore, I didn't have the capacity in my head to be dealing more with myself. I was dealing with her illness. And, but the thing that I, I was telling this story just the other week, it only came to me again because I had totally forgotten. When I was young, I used to sit and read books. And it was a dream within me that I would one day have my own.
Hmm.
And I thought, I have nothing to write about. I have nothing important to say. It would be a dream. It would be one of these things I would just daydream about. I'd be reading a book and kid on, it was my name at the front of it from under the age of 10. You know, it was really young. And I was like, right, okay. So when my mum had died there, I just had this fire within me. I thought I need to do my own thing now because I'd been grieving her throughout her illness. And then I was also grieving that I had given my life up after finding my life again.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was coming home and I was hitting brick walls from the hospital, and just sitting and not being able to move or do anything. So just before she passed, I had this again. I'm going to call it another awakening because within me, I'm like, I honestly came home and I couldn't do things. I had planned to do things, but there was nothing. I couldn't get myself back up off the couch. And then 2 weeks before she had passed, I'm like, this has to change. And I started again eating healthier because these are my things in which I know work. Started eating healthier, started looking at positive things online,
Mm-hmm.
started doing my meditations again, and was just like, right, okay, this is going okay. And opened up my laptop and started writing my story. So so I in July I then published my book.
I'm so excited for you. I'm so proud of you. And also inspired by you. This is something that connects with me very deeply in certain ways, slightly different stories, but certain parallels. Which is why we always have these beautiful opportunities to connect with people in our lives and on our path that end up becoming reflections for us, right? Me for you, you for me in certain ways. Um, so the book was inspired by your journey. What is the title of the book?
The
Can you share?
title of the book is Becoming Her Again.
Oh, I love it. And tell me more about it. So it's about obviously a bit of your story.
Yeah, so it starts with my 5 years to live, and it'll then go into my awakening, and then it goes into my coaching because I didn't actually give myself time to fully heal. I went straight into helping other people, which is a healing in itself.
Yes, it is.
I found that gave me so much joy and lit me up to hear other people's transformations, where they were and where we could take them to.
Yes.
And just walking together on a path, being there, that's my joy. That is where I hear people when I see people, like when I'm looking at you just now, and I don't know your story, Dana. I only
Mm-hmm.
know the wee little tiny bits in which you've told me. So I really want to have a conversation on that later. And that is what lights me up inside. And when people are telling me the hard stuff and I can see them sitting there, I start
Mm.
smiling because I see that they've already transformed. And I'm like, yeah, and they're telling me the hard stuff, and I'm sitting there grinning because I'm like, yeah, and I can see you today, and it's beautiful. It's such a joy to see that in people, and that's what sparks me inside. And so my book takes you from my being given the 5 years death sentence to going through the journey of the movement, the
Mm.
eating healthy, the building up those tiny moments of trust.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And without those moments of trust, we don't have the evidence to move forward and do the things that we need to do. Whereas I was physically seeing my evidence happening before my eyes. And a lot of people don't see that in themselves when it's their transformation. It might be something in their head, it might be whatever it may be, and they might not have that physical thing in which they can see. So
Mm-hmm.
I then went on, after writing the book, I hadn't realized that this is what I had built in my methodology was the, I call it now trust tokens that we
Yes.
build within ourselves
Yes.
so that we can have that evidence of the small steps that change our lives in massive ways.
Yes. Let me share. Let me share. So we have the visual. Let's see if this. Yes.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about this.
So the trust tokens are we if we choose a big step, it's something that we're going to fail at very, very quickly. And it's something that we need to build every step with one step at a time.
Yes.
We don't start walking up a mountain and get to the top
Mm-hmm.
by not taking a step after step after step after step. And that journey can be like that, it can be like this, it can be almost like that. And it is a journey in which we go on. But to get the precise transformation in which you need and which you seek within yourself, it's small promises.
Yes.
And those small promises in which you take evidence from, hence the tokens, then
Mm-hmm.
give you those big transformations. So
Amazing.
the oak tree is the self-trust is the roots. On each of the branches you have your honoring yourself, your people pleasing, your trust, your intuition, your boundaries. If those branches do not have the roots below, they break easily. So to
Mm-hmm.
keep all of those strong, you need to have strong roots at the bottom. And those
Okay.
roots are your self trust. So when we build our self trust by those tiny little promises to ourselves, your branches will not break. So you can build your confidence and you can be confident on the outside and on the inside. Because when we're only confident on the outside, a lot of speakers will be confident on the outside when they're speaking and they're really good at it. But
Right.
inside breaking a lot of the time, and they could be having a lot of issues in their personal life
Mm-hmm.
that then affects every other part of their life. But when they go on stage to do their act, like I mean,
Right.
Robin Williams for prime example,
Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, he
prime
was very
example.
depressed. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nobody knew, nobody knew what that man felt inside.
Yeah, that's a very great example because when we think of him and we think of his work and his acting and his sense of humor, right?
Mm.
People don't think like how depressed he was. He was masking that. Yeah.
And especially when we have successful women, they mask so much. If they were
Mm,
to say that I'm breaking inside or I don't feel like myself, I'm disconnected from myself, I can't make my own decisions in their workplace, in their business, they make phenomenal, massive decisions on a daily basis. But when it comes to their own decisions, they can't do it. They have to seek permission from someone else. And
mm,
that doesn't sit right within your values. It doesn't sit right in your heart.
mm-hmm.
So my job, because of my journey, I like to offer that to other people to build their self trust with them because I feel like that is the roots and the crux of the issues for a lot of people is a self trust. That's what I had to build. That's my journey. And I fully believe it's a lot of people's journeys. And therefore, if I can help build that, oh, we're going to have a lot happier people in the world.
That's beautiful. And it's interesting, really, how some of the timing of our conversation is unfolding as well because I had another conversation. I'll point you to the recording because you may enjoy it, but another conversation just the other day about the purpose beyond the pain.
Mm,
And it's so resonant with your story because look at how many lives now, not only your own that you significantly transform, but others that you want to touch. And I connect to that very deeply with the work that I do too. And that's a big reason for the why behind it as well, was
yeah.
my personal journey and transformation. Uh, Again, the reason for starting the community, for starting the podcast. Um, yeah, I'm happy to share a little bit more of my story at some point. I've been kind of giving little tastings along the way with various conversations because it's pretty large, and I also feel that giving it all at once is a bit much. But I
Yeah.
will in the right setting and the timing and context. But it started with early trauma as a young child, which many have had, but we all have various different intensities of that. but just having a cyclical experience throughout my life, especially in relationships, that
Hmm.
mirrored the unhealthy dynamics that were formed in those early years. And so, I share it like this, and it seems I feel you can probably resonate with this as well. I know now what it feels to live out of alignment and what it feels like to live in alignment. And it's such a blessing and honor for us to be able to guide others on that pathway back to freedom as well.
Oh,
So thank you
Dina,
for the work that you're doing.
and you know, how remarkable is it that there's so many wonderful people doing so many wonderful things because they were affected by not so wonderful things or not so wonderful people.
Exactly. It's all a matter of, again, it's all a matter of choice. Do we continue to live as a victim of our circumstances, or do we choose to grow through it, right? Speaking of the tree and the roots, right? Like, do we choose to allow it to transform us and to grow and to flourish? It's always a choice, and it may not feel like it in that moment,
No, it doesn't.
right? No, no, because it's very human nature to cling to what's familiar. Um, but this is what's so wonderful about having these kinds of conversations as well, is that we also allow others to be able to understand that there is a choice, that there is another path. And again, yes, you can.
Yes, you can. And there's, regardless of where you are, you have a choice. And
So true.
that's the hard part that people don't see. And if I could just give that to people, that you always have a choice. And I've had people arguing with me, blue in the face, I don't have a choice. You always have a choice, darling. Always
Yeah.
have a choice.
Yes. Now, sticking with it, that's definitely another challenge in itself, as you know, as I know. Um, but I would love to just, share again that this is so resonant. I'm so grateful to have you on the podcast and that our paths have crossed because, slightly different approaches, very similar constructs.
Hmm.
When you talk about self-trust and building that and the different elements of that you have expressed in the graphic image and how you approach the coaching. Again, similar, different approaches, but again, as I started off at the beginning of the podcast, what we tell ourselves we believe, what we believe we become. Yes, you can.
True. That is true.
And obviously, we've heard a lot about that from you today, Dee. And again, thank you for the service that you're doing for others. It's beautiful work. And where can individuals purchase the book and where can they connect with you?
So the book is on Amazon. Now, if
Okay.
you just type in Becoming Her Again, you might get Meryl Streep's book.
Okay.
I
Well,
sit, I sit beside
I'll
her.
include the link in the post as well so that they'll
Yeah.
have that. Okay.
So if you type in Becoming Her Again, because success should never become cost you yourself, or just with my name, it'll get you there. Um, and I am on my socials are LinkedIn, they are Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
That
We'll include the links in the post as well. I'll have you send them to me so that way
yeah.
everyone will have them. And do you typically do one-on-one coaching? Do you do group coaching or a
I
combination?
I do a combination. The one-on-one, that's more VIP. The group coaching is just about to start again. I will send you the link for. I've got a 3-day masterclass coming up next week.
Oh,
Uh,
wonderful.
so it's free and it's about the self-trust, where we look at awareness first, because without awareness, we don't know that we don't trust ourselves. So we look at the awareness, then we build in the trust tokens, and then we look at evidence over emotion. So it's over the 3 days. That's our topics, and there's a lot of value in there, and there is a lot of learnings that you can take away and start working on straight away for free.
Amazing. I can't believe you're doing 3 days for free. I mean, that sounds like quite a steal, quite a deal for everyone. So Um, I would love the details for that so I can share that with the listeners as well so they know where to go to be able to join. You said that'll be on LinkedIn as the platform, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great, great. Well, this has been phenomenal. Like I said, it just is an honor to be able to sit with you and hear your story and allow you to share your story with the listeners. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for being part of the community. I would, with your permission, love to post this to the community as well, and to allow them to be able to find you. This is one thing about the way that I focus my practice. I feel I've used the terminology before that, there are 31 flavors, there's a flavor for everybody.
Yeah.
And I see that oftentimes the way that it works, if we're really true, if we're being very genuine and authentic in the coaching world, is that people will come to us when they feel that they're connected to our story or they're connected to us or there's something unique about the way that we present or the way that they connect to us. And so um, I just don't believe. I think that the way that we are living, the competition is going out the window here, and we really need to start focusing on how we can continue to be much more collaborative. So,
Oh,
if
yeah.
there's somebody even in the community who chooses to work with you because they feel that that's a good connection, I am in full support of that. Obviously, I don't want people poaching intentionally. That's different, but I'm all about promoting people. Your success is all of our success, and vice versa, right? So that's what I mean when I say thank you for your service. So thank you, and I look forward to more to come, and hopefully another conversation as well. This has been beautiful.
Yeah, Dana, it's been such an honor to be here. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for having me here today and for listening and just allowing me that privilege to speak with you today. It's been my honor. It really has.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dee. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll go ahead and get everything posted and all the links available for the listeners. And I look forward if anyone has a listen and this really connects, the story connects for you, or you have any feedback or any questions, please don't hesitate to drop a comment, and Dee and I will follow up with you.
We certainly will.
All right. Thank you so much, Dee. You take
Thanks,
care. We'll see
Dana.
you soon.
Thank you.